Moses is warning the people not to forget the great acts of the Lord their God, and not to add or take away from what he is commanding them directly. They are a people chosen for the Lord's own part, and they are called to give that testimony to the world. It will be the beginning of the preparation for the incarnation. For the Exodus takes them out of a pagan atmosphere and makes them a people completely different. The psalm is one which actually could have been used when pilgrims were asking a question. The question is not actually included in the part of the psalm that we have this Sunday. Lord, who shall be admitted to your tent? The priest might answer then this part that we have. There is also an echo in the psalm itself of the law, insofar as in Leviticus it is forbidden for a Hebrew to be taking money on interest from his brethren, because it is seen as taking advantage of one of his brethren in distress. He has not to take interest on a loan. Of course, the Jews became bankers in the Middle Ages through being the ones who were willing to do it with non-Jews. Whereas the Christians themselves would hesitate, which is interesting. The letter to St. James is ancient, and it is possibly the earliest part. We're not quite sure, because the language, compared with other parts of the New Testament, is very primitive. It's very Hebrew, and it's pithy. It's a string of pearls. Each one is a gem. It is possibly a series of answering problems that arise among those who are in perhaps the atmosphere of Jerusalem as early converts. Be that as it may, these pearls are valid for us too. We need to accept the Word of God as listeners, and this element of recognizing all as coming from the Father of lights is the attitude of soul that adores God manifesting himself in the here and now of creation. We get used to the gift of life, do we not? The gospel itself is daring. The Lord is quite trenchant in answering the criticism of the Pharisees, who, of course, have done the very thing that the law of Moses in Deuteronomy warns them not to do, not to add to the law. But the Lord himself goes straight to the point, indicating that they are actually falling in the very category condemned by Isaiah. This people honours me only with lip service, with their hearts far from me. And that applies also to us if we're not careful. There is a danger, particularly in the form of Christianity which is based on set prayers, not to pray those set prayers, but to say them only. And we need to examine ourselves on that point, because the whole thrust of the renewal coming from the Second Vatican Council with regard to the liturgy was that it should be simplified but meant in every syllable and every gesture. It was made lighter but more aerated, and it's a grace to be grasped with both hands. Therefore, pauses are as important as the words, and it's a two-way contact. We need the Lord to have that space to get through to us, not in a huge number of words, but in a dialogue in which the words sustain the mode. And it should be celebratory. The notion of having fewer words is coupled with a desire to have more words sung. It can be done, and makes a huge difference. The beauty of the house of God, the voice of the man or the woman coupled with that of the angels, that is liturgy on every level, sanctifying also the body and the space. Something beautiful for God, gratuitous. But then this notion of interiority is taken to the logical conclusion, because the initial attack is that of taking in things without washing them. Well, the Lord is indicating where the washing must happen. It is the stuff that comes out of the contaminated interior that is going actually to betray that interior. But the interior has to be cleansed. And what is in there will come out. Is it not true that one detects what is in a person from what leaks out in the conversation? What a person talks about willingly, for instance, or the way he talks about what he talks about. One betrays oneself after a while. The truth will out. And so we have this list. But these elements of fornication, that is bad thoughts coming out, theft, murder, adultery, again, this element of the interiority of the thoughts being betrayed also in behaviour, avarice, malice, deceit, indecency, envy, slander, pride, folly. Folly is interesting because it can be an over-lightness, an incapacity to be serious. That is not helpful in life. Laughter is the medicine, that's an old saying, and it's given to us by the Lord. But just to be in humorous mode all the time is not to be a serious person. It is a little sprinkling, a peppering of life, but not the dominant mode. Indeed, the great trick in humour is to be unexpected. If it's all the time a heavy expectancy of something sort of funny, it becomes dull. With regard to this, it applies to our time in a big way. In student days in Rome, one night I was actually already in bed and there was a knock on the door, and it was the rector of the house there in Rome, the Premonstratensian Generalate, which was the Normandy College, and he saw that I was there already about to go to sleep, but he felt he had to communicate something, so we had a little talk, and he indicated that he'd been talking to the Abbot General, and that they were concerned about me because my house was on the brink in Ireland, and he did warn me that it could mean that because the abbot, who was a very good man, had not been able to handle what was going on there, apparently for a long time, underground, that he probably would have to step down. And I dismissed it immediately, or that won't happen. But he quietly indicated he knew more about how things worked in church life. So it was not long after that that I went over to the Irish College, which was nearby, and had a long talk with Cardinal Daly, who was there, the head of the Irish Church, to ask his advice. And he knew far more than I did. He was well informed, because as novices we hadn't been told anything about what was going on. And he just said to me when I got to him, "Your abbot has just retired." That was the way he put it, but it was basically a way of saying he stepped down, and he said that has taken off the pressure. But the advice that he gave me then, if possible, to keep out of the storm that was going to probably bring down the house and stay out in Rome if possible, was a good bit of advice, and that's what sort of happened. I was ordained in Italy. But the question of what he knew and saw was what hit me. because I remember one time when still in the monastery, it was before vows, the telephone rang and I answered it, and it was Cardinal Daly at the other end, and he wanted to talk to the abbot. So it was during this conversation, much later with the Cardinal in Rome, that I discovered that he'd been trying to get through to the abbot to warn him that things were going to be made public and that the covering up of things was not going to work. So what happened eventually was that the government itself actually fell over it, because the government in the north, the police, accused the government in the south of protecting the priest in question by not having the order for extradition executed. And it was a huge public affair. And eventually, of course, all the power of the law and even the media came into it, and what was not happening officially in the church itself was done by the secular world very well, unfortunately. So this is the kind of scenario that we have to be aware of. If we do not do ourselves what is required by the law of Christ, that there should be cleansing of the interior, and therefore of all the hidden world of our hearts and lives, then it is useless to be carrying on a perfect praise, because the perfect praise happens on the level of the will. The will, therefore, must be completely in subjection to the divine will, and that therefore will include the whole comportment of the person, the community, the parish, the diocese, whoever it may be. So the question is, even though we may not ourselves be guilty, but if we are hiding things, then we become part of the problem, and that is what the Holy Spirit at this time is trying to do. We cannot cover up. If we do, the truth will out, and other people will do the work for us. So maybe in our time, something similar to this will happen again, but on a bigger level. We need not be too concerned in a sense, because if we are, it means that we think that the Lord is not Lord, but that we are. The church is not our own only. All we have to do is make penance and pray, but take very seriously the fact that we cannot compromise with grace. It's all or nothing in the service of the Lord. And if we do not do our bit to make sure it's coherent, we're doing exactly what the Lord was accusing the Pharisees of doing, a service of lips, but the heart being far from him.